Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Entrepreneurship to the Point. We're so happy that you could join us today as we continue our conversation with young entrepreneurs from across the continent. My name is Tebogo Marike, and I will be your host for this afternoon. I'd just like to remind you to please do follow us on our social media platforms and to subscribe to our newsletter. You can find all of that information at www.eTTP.co.za, and make sure that you stay in the loop about all of the sessions that we will be having in the next upcoming weeks. Today, we're so excited to be speaking to a young, dynamic, accomplished lady, Alina Karimamusama. I hope that I've pronounced your surname correctly, but she's a young woman who is passionate about using entrepreneurship, using her skills to empower women in her region and to make sure that the inequalities that are so prevalent in our own country of South Africa, but definitely across the continent and all over the world, that she's doing something about those through entrepreneurship. So welcome to Entrepreneurship to the Point, Alina. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well in light of all the events happening. And how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You look wonderful. When I first saw your picture, when you sent through your information as we were building up to this conversation, I was like, I have so much respect for people who do their makeup and their face beautifully, because I know what a craft that is. And it's a discipline. And I just thought, even small things like that say so much about a person, and how committed they are to their appearance and surely to everything else that they do in life. So welcome to the platform. Please do tell the audience a little bit about yourself, just your background, where you are from, and how you got your journey going in entrepreneurship.
I don't look like this every day. Disclaimer, you will catch me in the field with the NGO and I am looking horrendous, but I figured that I might try a little bit today. So my name is Alina. I actually have 8 names. I think I forgot one of my names. Alina, Lee, Intombirai, Kumbirai, Muya, Musonda, Nankamba, Karimamusama. Okay, I got all 8. And Karimamusama is 12 letters, so it's already a mouthful. Try having 8.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from exactly, and where are you based right now?
I'm from Zambia. I do have Zimbabwean roots. My mother is half Zimbabwean, half Zambian. And someone says, can we discuss for 10 marks on my names? So I am a Zambian entrepreneur, born and bred. I grew up in a little town on the Copper Belt I was born in Kitwe, grew up in Chingola, 2 siblings, a brother and sister. And I got into entrepreneurship very young. So I'm a social entrepreneur and also a not-for-profit leader, leading a non-government organization.
Okay. And the name of the organization, are you referring to Youth Arise, correct?
Okay, so there is Youth Arise Initiative, and then there is the Women's Economic Empowerment Project. I'm also co-founder of a Pan-African organization focusing on increasing the scalability and capacity of women leaders in STEM called Afri-Female Tech, Afri-Femtech.
And what was your first business, or what was your first encounter with entrepreneurship?
I was 4 years old. We were living in a peri-urban community, which is like a township in South Africa. That's what you would call it. And I didn't have many toys like other young people my age, children, adolescent girls. And so we would play with maize cobs, my sister and I. Of course we had toys, just not many. And we would play with maize cobs and hair. And I would say, I want to turn these into Barbie dolls. Or I would have a doll that was completely naked because maybe it was a hand-me-down. and I would try and steal pieces of cloth from my mother's chitenge, which is a beautiful African fabric. And I would cut it up and try to sew little dresses and tops. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna make so many clothes and dolls fashion and sell it to all my friends and make a lot of money. So that was my first encounter with entrepreneurship. I know there is the argument of entrepreneurship, if entrepreneurs are born or made. I feel like for me, it was never a question. It was always, I knew I was an entrepreneur without knowing the word entrepreneur.
Yeah, so it was something that was just in your bones, the creativity and kind of the ability to identify opportunities. And when would you say then, you kind of started understanding what it is that you were doing, and the fact that it's a little bit different from perhaps the traditional, you go to school, you go and you start working. When did you realize that there was something special about what you do?
All through high school, I would say. With entrepreneurship, even now, where I would say I have a business that is successfully running, you don't have it all figured out. It's about learning and mastering your craft, and it's daily dedication and commitment. So it's not that I knew I had it all figured out, that I was gonna not get into formal employment, because I have had a full-time job. And even in that respect, it's been good opportunities. Marketing director for one of our largest retail brands here in Lusaka, Zambia. But throughout high school, the theme of entrepreneurship maintained in my character. So I would either, maybe it was in 8th grade when I got on a plane for the first time and came to South Africa and bought a bunch of candy and started to resell it in school. And my mother bought us so much chocolates, and I was like, this is gonna be my paycheck in 8th grade. And I would resell the candy, or I would revamp secondhand clothes and resell them, or learn how to do my own hair, because, getting your hair done was a luxury. So I learned how to braid my own hair in high school and start charging other young girls to do their hair as well.
Okay. And it's so interesting because, it's like, it was just a natural evolution for you, looking at other things that you loved or the needs that you had, and being able to really evolve those into services that you could offer to other people. How did now the kind of social side come into play, right? Because all through you were kind of, selling products, either candy or doing people's hair. What triggered the beginning of your journey as a social entrepreneur and the passions that you have in that respect?
Definitely my early childhood upbringing. I think my first interaction with feminism, I was 4 years old, and I recognized the value that a woman has to community, to society, the vital role that she plays in the growth of our nation and family and people. So after my parents got divorced when I was less than 2 years old, and it was a horrible divorce. But after, we were very poor, and I remember still in that state where it was a 1-bedroom house and we were 12 people living there. And I think the whole house was maybe 3 rooms. And community members and family still called my mother for support, for help. And she never turned them down empty-handed or disappointed. And it was never at the expense of us, the children. So I grew up thinking we were very rich because there was a lot of love in the house. It was always full. And then later on, we moved to a better neighborhood. This is like a decade plus later. And now we're living in between 2 peri-urban communities. And over the weekend, when I wasn't in school, we would have visitors that would come in, and they would be asking to do so much housework, and they would call it piecework. They would do the house, they would offer to do the laundry, they would offer to do garden work, cook, clean, take care of the children for the price of less than $1. And they always usually had a baby on their back. So for me, it reminded me of my own mother. And I knew that they also had families to take care of. And of course, I had my business at the time. I was 15, and I was making connections with other, private schools, with middle income schools, etc. And it didn't make sense to me why we had these young women that were able-bodied. They were able to walk 3K looking for piecework or jobs, but they could barely speak English. They didn't have formal education. I felt like the government wasn't doing enough. So I felt that it was my responsibility to step up and I gathered about 2 friends, and we went into the communities to find out what it is they lack. And we discovered it was just lack of access to opportunity, which comes from not having enough information, exposure, training, not having completed their high school, not building or knowing the importance of networking, and having no skills. So I transformed my business at the time into a social initiative that was sharing everything I had acquired with the business for free with these young women and adolescent girls, and training them into vet skills. It was so successful. We had people coming all the way from the town that I grew up in, Chingola, to Lusaka, which is like a 6-hour drive or 6-hour bus journey, to attend these free seminars. And what I think what I find the most, when I look back and say, while I was 15, is just the passion that I had for it. We had no tents, we had no chairs, but I went to, I'm not sure what you would call it in South Africa or anywhere else where people would understand, but it's called Salaula in Zambia. So it's basically thrift, there we go, second-hand items. So I bought about 10 white bed sheets. Of course, one was white, one was off-white, one was cream, one was stained, for for the price of like 5 rand, like 5 kwacha each. And I remember hand sewing them together to make this like kind of tent alternative. And I stuck planks in my mother's yard and made the tent. And we really tried to work through this curriculum. And it started off as just a 1-day session. And of course they learned makeup, hair, this, that. And now we have STEM. Now we have alternative jobs for women, like wall and floor tiling to vet skills for women, taught by a woman. We have social entrepreneur programs. We partner with the Africa Leadership Academy in South Africa to teach Build in a Box. We opened the first youth hub in Kawunda Square that is a direct response to the social and economic needs of the young people and women in that community. We diligently go into the peri-urban communities that not even politicians dare go into because they have such a bad rep, and we uncover talent and skill and potential, and we mold and shape young leaders.
Yeah. Amazing. And I'll tell you now, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the passion that you had when you were 15 years old, I can definitely feel it coming through in how you've just articulated what you're doing. And I mean, I think just the level of impact that you have been able to create, we all know how important it is and how impactful it is when you empower women and people who are mothers and who have children and households that are watching them succeed and learn and empower themselves. So, wow, amazing. And congratulations. I think maybe the next question that I'd want you to maybe articulate for the guys listening, you know, a lot of the young people that we have been speaking to over the last while, their businesses have that very, very strong social foundation. You know, it is to solve a problem that is within communities, to empower people in some shape or form. How did you navigate making sure that your social enterprise and the social solution that you were bringing was balanced out from a business perspective, right? Because you cannot give from an empty well, as people like to say, and this thing has to be sustainable. It's got to run like a business, but at the same time, you have all of these amazing social objectives that you need to meet. How did you manage to navigate that process?
I think there's a lot that not-for-profit sector can learn from the corporate sector if we can bridge that gap. But I will start by saying I was 15. I was just super passionate about helping people. Naturally, I'm an empath. I will jump at the first opportunity to be there for someone. And that's something I can't fight off. I've tried. And so at 15, it was never about I need to make money or I need to make this sustainable. I need to figure out who are our key partners. How can we get funding and partnerships and grants? It was never about that. It was about creating a solution to a problem that we had identified and making sure that this solution was actually feasible, that it was working for the people, that we were changing lives and creating real impact for real people. So yeah, everything about sustainability and management and structure, our organogram, advisory board, all of that came later on. And that's the beauty about young, hungry entrepreneurs that decide whatever I want to do, I'm going to start it now, whether it's for profit, whether it's not for profit, social initiative, a project, whatever it is, I'm going to start now. You start immediately and you learn and fail and grow. The key is not to grow, it's to learn what works, what doesn't work, what can be better. When you fail, it's not about stopping or quitting or waiting for somebody to give you a pat on the back. It's about keeping to push. It's okay, I'll keep trying, I'll keep pushing. And so all of that came later on, is how do we make this sustainable? Because I was using money from my pocket. It's how do we bring on board partners? How do we get support? How do we, when the question of how do we help more people came about, with my team, that's when the question of sustainability came about, and the question of partners and grants and funding. It's okay, the reality is we're gonna need more money to help more people. How do we generate this on our own? And if we're not able to do it on our own, who do we seek as a partner to help us do this? So even initially, it wasn't that we were asking for money. A lot of people have reservations about giving young people money. And I found this to be true with my personal experience. They did not want to sponsor, support, grant, fund, invest in anything. But what they didn't mind doing is buying a care package for the beneficiaries that we have, which I hate that word, beneficiaries, for the young people and women that we were working with. They didn't mind buying a care package. So that's how we kind of found the solution there is, okay, let's not ask people for money. Let's show them who needs this and what they're gonna do with this. So it's about creating the impact story as well, trying to identify the right partners. Sustainability and growth isn't always about money. Sometimes what a young entrepreneur needs is not just financial support.
Yeah, it's interesting that you'd say that. And guys watching us right now, just remember that you can use the chat to field any questions to Alina, and we'll make sure that we ask her. But it's interesting that you'll say, you found that it was challenging for people to be willing to give money to young entrepreneurs. And I mean, we've seen with the research that the Anzisha Prize has done, how impactful young entrepreneurs are when they are given the necessary kind of support. We've seen how much businesses that are formed by young entrepreneurs can be so important in terms of creating jobs, in terms of creating jobs for other young people. And we know as Africans, many of us on the continent are young people. We've got a very young population. And so it's so interesting that there is still that almost non-truth around what would happen if money was given and poured into businesses that are ran by very young entrepreneurs. But I like what you did, you and your team, right? You looked and you said, okay, funders and sponsors and partners don't respond well to a proposal for money, but they're willing to buy a product for a person who is part of our initiative. What other kinds of ways or advice, maybe if we can use the word tactic, right? Without, but what other kinds of tactics do you think that young people who are starting social enterprises can think about and maybe view differently in terms of getting those partners on board who are going to enable them to be sustainable and to continue to do the work that they're doing?
Okay, I'll start by saying organizations are looking to support young people. So if you're a young person watching, don't be discouraged and think that you won't be able to get a grant opportunity. You will be, definitely. We just didn't have that kind of information. And the people that we were looking at were locally, and it was individuals and not larger organizations because we didn't know how to approach them. But once we figured it out, we were able to get funding, grants, and such. So to answer your question, I think you're most likely to win, say, a grant competition if you're able to prove that you have already been able to create a successful project with meaningful impact with the resources that you have, with the limited resources that you have been able to create the most impact with it. And this is what you would be able to do with this much. So if there's a grant pool of $3,000, don't ask for the entire 3,000. Maybe all you need for a project is $500 or $1,200. It's better than asking for the whole 3,000, because maybe they want to give or split the money between 5 youth-led organizations. So make sure you do your research on the projects, have as much information as possible. What is the area that you're going to work in? What is the problem you're going to tackle? Why is this problem important and relevant to the need of the community members, the society, or to the need of the world right now? Why is it important? What solution have you come up with? And how did you get to that solution? And how will you carry it out? If you don't get the 1,300 from the organization or grant company or pitch competition, how else will you raise that money that you need? Or what other contingency plans do you have in place to raise that money that you need to initiate that project?
Okay, great. And maybe you can tell us a little bit, you've mentioned, around kind of making sure you understand your environment and understand what the need is. How has the current state of the world impacted how you do business, impacted how you are able to continue working with the people that you do? Has it had an impact at all? And how have you managed to continue operating?
It has been very challenging. Everyone has had to work from home. I think what COVID-19, we should just address it, what COVID-19 has done for a lot of non-government organizations is, especially in the not-for-profit sector, is reveal the lack of contingency planning, because it's not just an organization like ours, that's little, that didn't have a contingency plan. It's larger organizations that didn't know, what do we do now? What's the next step? Of course, no one could have anticipated COVID-19's coming. So I think for us, the first way it impacted our work was our team had to work from home. We had one team member that had to be quarantined in South Africa and again in Zambia when she came. We have one team member that has been stuck in Trinidad, separated away from her family for the last about 2 months now. So working from home was challenging because we're used to working together. It's, here, I have to show you this. Can we talk about how this will work? Number 2, our programs. If you look at our target, the people that we work with, it's people in low income, peri-urban communities and remote areas. Majority of them don't have smartphones. You cannot transform our peer-to-peer education programs, our peer-to-peer mentorship sessions, our in-person financial literacy trainings with the women that sell in the markets to teach them how they can grow, scale up their business, save, budget, spend virtually. You can't say, I'll call you and we'll do it over a phone call. And we tried, but it just didn't work out. So how does an organization like ours transform their programs to virtual learning spaces? Was very difficult. For a whole 2-3 weeks, we were trying to figure that out. But immediately what we got to doing was, okay, we need to educate our communities on sensitization and awareness of what is COVID-19. The areas we work in, they have the spirit of Ubuntu in their bones. They don't believe in separating when disaster happens. It's, I need my neighbor needs me, we need each other. How do we teach them to physical or social distance? How do we encourage that? When the way that I grew up, there are also 12 people living in a one-room house. How will they social or physical distance when the houses are so clustered together? It's not possible for you to snore without your neighbor hearing that you snored last night. So how do we get them to wear face masks when they don't believe that the virus can even affect Black people? So that was what we got to work doing first. It's sensitization and awareness campaigns, teaching them how they can make reusable face masks from home. The bus drivers with the local transportation, giving them hand sanitizers so that they can spray every person that comes onto the bus, making sure they understand, look, people could get sick from riding the bus with you. Right now, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how many lives you will help save. So it's limiting, helping them understand they need to limit the number of people that get on the buses, because where there's an allocation for 4 people, a bus will put 8 people who will all be squashed together, making sure they make it mandatory that if you're not wearing a face mask, you cannot come onto the bus. And then that then pushed people to say, okay, I need to get into the town center to do business. I need to get to that area to work. I have to wear a face mask, giving the bus drivers and taxi drivers free face masks, free hand sanitizers, free flyers and leaflets that they can stick up on their bus, on their taxis to say, wear a face mask, COVID-19 is real, and then translating the messages that World Health Organization and our Ministry of Health were putting out about COVID-19, because a lot of it was in English. And we work in the communities with the people that don't speak English. So how do we had to get volunteers and partner with other smaller organizations. I know we partnered with Africa on the Board, Circus Zambia, a number that you might not know. And we translated the messages from English to Bemba, to Nyanja, to Lozi, to Tonga, so that everyone could have an understanding. We created a television ad with one of our girls that graduated from our program. Her name is Irene, and she is the first person in her family ever to go to college. I'm so proud of her. So she's studying to be a nurse, and we created this TV ad with her, and it was in English and was in Nyanja, and we partnered with TV stations and radio stations that were willing to put these messages we were sending out for free. And just to educate the people, make sure everybody knows what's going on. We worked with the mayor and Circus Zambia, the mayor of Lusaka and Circus Zambia, to donate about, I think it was 30 to 50 hand washing stations to Chibolia, one of the most notorious ghettos in Lusaka that people don't go into. If you come from Chibolia, everyone will step away from you, as if you have the most contagious disease worse than COVID-19 ever. And we work diligently in that community because we know the stories are very real, but behind or underneath those stories, there are also innocent, amazing young people and women and men too. So educating them, we were able to raise over 240,000 kwacha worth of menstrual hygiene products. It was actually over 11,000 pounds worth of menstrual hygiene products from the world's #1 menstrual cup company, Origami Cup, all the way in Denmark. And we have been able to kind of try and eradicate period poverty, especially in this time when families in low income communities aren't making money, and already they don't have clean running water. They cannot afford to buy sanitary pads for their daughters every month, giving them those free menstrual hygiene products. We donated over 70,000 kwacha worth of it to the Ministry of Health in Zambia as well, for frontline workers that couldn't be separated from their work and go see their families. We have been working with Lusaka Helps and giving care packages to women that have been put out of jobs. We've been doing a lot of amazing work.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I actually, it's so inspiring to look at how you've taken the passion that you have always had, you know, that fundamental need to be there for people when they need you the most. And it's just so amazing to see how in any kind of situation, if that truth is there and that underlying foundation and reason for why you do what you do is there, you can very quickly adapt to situations and still continue to add value where needed. That's absolutely incredible what you've been able to achieve in such a short space of time and within these kinds of circumstances. I think I wanted to just get a sense of, in terms of the partners that you have been able to work with, do you find that you work mostly with local partners, funders, or do you get more joy looking internationally for support?
As the leader of the organization, I get more joy and fulfillment working with local partners, because I know we're gonna tackle one problem with, one bird, two stones. Is that what they say? And so it's,
Yeah,
you're
something.
already working in Chibolia. I'm
Uh-huh.
working in Kaunda Square. This is what we do. This is what you do. We can come and do this in Chibolia. You can come do this in Kaunda Square. We both are low on funds or grants, but we can collaborate. I am very huge in all of my businesses, my for-profit business, social enterprises, spa, it's collaboration over competition, always. and supporting the local organizations, trying to give them the same support that we need. They also look out for us. When an opportunity comes up and I include another leader of an organization, a local leader, they will think of my organization and the people that we work with as well. So it's about being able to look, you do get more money from international funders and donors. That's a fact. I can't lie about this. And local partners, we don't give each other money. But they are fruitful. Like one of our partnerships with USAID and FHI 360 last year, and we were the only organization for that partnership that didn't have to apply. We were invited to be part of it because they've seen our work. And a lot of young leaders
Hi, Alina.
start social enterprises, not because of the puny money, but they gave us full-time interns and they paid them the salary that we were doing. So we were able to grow our team, bring on board the necessary people with the necessary skills without having to break bank.
Sorry, you were breaking there, but I think we've got the gist of what you were saying, to say, you know, internationally you might get more money, but definitely there is a lot of value in working with local entities, because I think there is the same commitment, I guess, and buy-in to, and there's an understanding of what some of the issues are. And so when you tackle them together in that way, you find that you're able to come to solutions that both parties understand. Is that what you were trying to say? Okay.
And there's more benefit working with a local partner, because if it's international and I have 4 girls in, say, Ngombe that will need sanitary pads and wear out, I can't reach out to my international partner for an immediate solution. I can reach out to my local partner and say, do you have excess of this? We need to do a financial literacy training, but our volunteers can't make it. Can you come help us out? It's just, you look out for each other. You're like a family. When you're in the NGO sector, it should never be competition. It should never be about, oh, they're in our territory, they're coming after our beneficiaries, we need these numbers. It should always be about collaboration. And I've seen that in the not-for-profit sector, that even larger organizations are reluctant to work with us, and they'll keep referring to community members as beneficiaries. They're people, they're not beneficiaries. You're there to help them solve a problem.
Thank you for that, Alina. I'm just looking at the chat now. You're getting a lot of shout outs just for the amazing work that you're doing. Somebody saying, I think that's from Desigan, collaboration and leverage are so powerful over competition. Matt is saying, Alina, I am inspired by your limitless thinking and how you impact lives beyond the adversities you've overcome. Kudos to you. And here, Alina, I think definitely everybody is feeling your energy and your commitment and your love for what you do. And that's just so, so inspiring, and exactly what we need to be hearing currently as people just trying to, you know, live in the current context. And I think it's also so great because a lot of us are realizing more and more the importance of being socially switched on, even in our everyday lives, but in how we do business, right? And in what we do. But I want to know a little bit, you mentioned that you've also got some for-profit businesses that you're running. Can you tell us a little bit about those businesses? Are those kind of solely separate from your NGO work, and what are those about?
So they're not separate, unfortunately, or it's not unfortunate for me. Another question I get asked similar to this is, so how do you strike a balance between work and home? But when you love what you do, when you're passionate about what you do, when you're creating an actual change in people's lives, then it's not about not taking your work home. You take your work home. You talk about the people that you're helping and the help that they need with everyone. So even when I start another business, it's because I'm passionate about another thing. But that doesn't mean I stop thinking about all the other amazing work that we're doing. It does mean that I learned some hard lessons about running a for-profit business because it's completely different from running an NGO. What I did with my for-profit business, we manufacture intimate hygiene washes for women. So we work with a number of doctors, gynecologists, chemists, pharmacies to develop these formulas. And there was a gap because on the market you find creators or manufacturers tend to think it's a one-size-fits-all for intimate washes for women and organic teas and food supplements. So we were trying to fill in that gap. We have one with a specific formula for women that are pregnant or postpartum, for adolescent girls that is very delicate but also strong in antimicrobial properties. We have one that tackles thrush and trying to elevate the symptoms of vaginal bacteriosis. We have one for sensitive skin. We have a non-fragrance one. We have one for just after working out. And then that business has several revenue streams now. We have the spa, we have supplying of raw materials, we have branding for other companies too, because again, collaboration over competition, even when we are in a for-profit business side. With the spa, it's a holistic wellness center for women. And there's so many other spas in Lusaka as well, but we will always repost another spa owned by another woman or another spa for women on our Instagram if they have a unique or valuable service, and we get reposted by the same people as well. And they bring in their customers to us and we share customers with them too, because collaboration, you will grow so much bigger than just competition. Everyone's competition. I don't understand it. And so with this business, the mistake I made for the for-profit business was taking all the profits and using it. Initially, I registered it as its own entity. But when I saw that we, which is the NGO, had so much need, we had so much work to do, is literally my life, soul, heart, spirit in WEEP, all the profits from the business were going into WEEP. It was going into paying everybody's salaries. It was going into making sure we were able to run our own hub, making sure we were able to start a new project without asking or seeking for financial help. And what happened was the business, the for-profit business, started to go down. And because we were taking all the money from it, there was barely any money left to pay its employees. And this is where we get the money from. So that was a really hard lesson and failure that I learned about business. And so now what we've done is some of the profits from the intimate hygiene wash, they go towards supporting the work that WEEP does. And I think taking that financial pressure off of the for-profit business has really helped it to grow immensely, but it has also helped everyone on my WEEP team understand this is why we need to identify partners that will help us spend the least amount of money to create the most meaningful impact. So now we're more resilient when we're looking for partners. We understand exactly where we need the money to go. We understand exactly how much money we should spend. So yeah.
Okay. So how long has the intimate wash and that, I didn't catch the name of that business?
Yoni. It's called
Yoni.
Yoni Wash and the Yoni Wellness Center. So Yoni is a Sanskrit word that refers to the uterine and ovarian system.
Okay, beautiful. How long has that business been running, and how much time was all of this happening, you know, from when you began kind of filtering money through from the for-profit business into your NPO, and now kind of where the cycle is starting to pick up again?
Over a year.
Over a year.
We acted as a social enterprise for WEEP for over a year. Yoni's been in existence since 2015. Before that, I was running another company, Bonavita. We do marketing, media communications. We've worked with Pick and Pay, with DSTV, MultiChoice, Coca-Cola. We've worked with so many people.
So quite the serial entrepreneur. And you've mentioned some brands that are familiar for us here in South Africa as well. Is Yoni also available in South Africa in retail stores or not yet?
Yes. Wow, we are franchising. So now we're a franchise and we're franchising to Namibia. And very happy, or luckily, our franchisee in Namibia is owned by a Zambian woman who settled in Namibia. Her name is Stacey Pinto. So Yoni, the wellness spice franchise in Namibia, she's also going to be the exclusive distributor, and we've already been selling the products in Namibia. We have the Yoni, the intimate feminine hygiene wash, the Yoni wash in South Africa, in Cape Town, in Johannesburg, in Honeydew, in Durban, and now in Washington, D.C. in the US as well.
Wow.
And in Malawi and in Botswana.
You
in
are
Zambia,
so
you can find it in a lot of the chemists and pharmacies, and in the largest chemist pharmacy like chain called Umoyo Stores. So you can find all our products in all of their outlets too. Almost all our products in their outlets.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, that's sounds like a really sustainable, thriving business. And you've managed to be able to do that while running, as you explained, your heart and what you love to do most. Tell us how all of this has impacted you, kind of from a personal well-being perspective. In the conversations that we've had with the other very young entrepreneurs, the conversation around mental health and wellness always comes up, and in terms of, we all understand that the entrepreneurship journey can sometimes be really difficult, perhaps quite lonely, but of course there are really amazing lessons as well, just from a personal well-being perspective, that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to be able to share when it's all said and done. Have you had any of those kinds of experiences, and what can you perhaps teach us today that you have learned?
When you're a young entrepreneur, here is my life from the view of a camera. We're put on this pedestal. Here's this young entrepreneur, Africa's top 20, and Zisha Prize Fellow, Queen's Young Leader, this. You put out all those nice titles, and a young person reading it will get inspired and they'll want the same. And when it sounds glamorous and what they start to experience in trying to build that is not glamorous, they think they're completely screwing up. They think there's some people that are just born to win, and then there is me. That's not the truth. Young entrepreneurs, we get praised a lot by different organizations. Even on Zisha Prize will say, we're creating jobs for our peers, other young people. We're turning entrepreneurship into a career. It is extremely challenging being a young African entrepreneur, being a young Black entrepreneur in Africa. When we hire people our own age, truthfully speaking, I'm hiring people that are also sometimes unqualified for the job, and they have no previous training, they have no skills. And so I have to make sure that they become qualified to do this job through training, through connecting them to potential mentors, people that have done similar work to what they will be doing, whether in the organization, in the business, to make sure that they also experience personal growth, emotional growth, mental growth, and capacity, that their leadership capabilities also grow. It means sharing the opportunities I have with them. It means I have to not be my age. I can't just be a 22-year-old, a 21-year-old, having fun, enjoying, hanging out with my friends. Those are necessary and fundamental for social life. And I want to still be able to hang out with my friends. That means I've had to make many sacrifices. And because of that, I've lost many friends along the way. It means not everybody will understand. It means some people still won't want to work with me because of my age, irrespective of what I have accomplished and achieved. They think I am just leading an organization. I think especially if it's a social initiative, social organization, you want to create social change, it takes a huge toll on you mentally and emotionally, and it affects how you function outside of work. And you really have to be able to separate yourself sometimes from your work. And I haven't found this to be possible for me, but I have been able to take some time just for me, a day or two, and you feel guilty for it, right? Because you know that day that you're spending working on your mental health, somebody else doesn't have that privilege. It's about recognizing also the privilege that you have to be in a position to help, whether you have nothing. It means maybe your mental capacity, you have been exposed more than they have. Yeah. Last year was very challenging. We created the organization, we've created the most impact we have ever had in its history last year. And WEEP was successful, our work was successful. We were able to create entrepreneurs. We were able to fund young entrepreneurs. We were able to educate over 3,600 women in financial literacy training, in social entrepreneurship. We were able to eradicate period poverty in over 600 adolescent girls and do so much. And I was leading an entire team. They were getting paid full salaries, but it meant sometimes I couldn't get paid, because I valued the work we were doing so much, because I knew there was a need for this and this I knew, because I knew it was someone's birthday or someone was going through something. And if I'm gonna call myself a young leader, I needed to be able to make sure a leader exists for the people. You're there to help the people. So it's putting them before yourself. And I had a conversation with a man called Braish last year who worked with Nelson Mandela. And it was because I was part of the first ever American Express Leadership Academy for Southern African leaders. I was fortunate enough to be the youngest woman chosen, which meant my cup was filling at the outpour of these women with so much more experience in life and the career than me. And my conversation with Braish really changed me, because he said to me, being in the position that you are, working in the communities, doing the kind of work you're doing, it comes with a lot of sacrifices, a lot of hard work, comes with a lot of turmoil. You will have to make sacrifices. Sacrifices will have to be made, but you don't have to be self-sacrificing. And that was big for me, because that's all I've ever done my whole life. Is I know what it's like to be in a position where you have nothing. I know what it's like to be abused by family members and not be able to speak out and say so and so. I know what it's like to be poor, but want to have so much and dream big and no one to encourage you. And so because you know what it's like to be there and you're not there anymore, or you may not even know what it's like to be there, but you have empathy and sympathy for the people that are in that situation, you think you have to sacrifice yourself so your team can be successful and lead. You have to sacrifice your mental health. It's okay, I don't need that much sleep. It's okay, I don't need a day off for people. And that's self-sacrificing. And you don't have to be self-sacrificing.
Wow. Amazing. Sure. I think that's probably a piece of advice that resonates with so many entrepreneurs, and I think definitely so many women entrepreneurs. You know, there's been a lot of conversation now during lockdown about, you know, finally people can see kind of the how difficult it is to be perhaps a mother or a wife or just a woman in general, being an entrepreneur or even working in corporate or in certain companies, and just the amount of load that a lot of women take on. And there's always that kind of allowance and almost like predisposition to self-sacrifice at the expense or for the betterment of everybody else around you. And I think that that's something that I'm definitely going to take to heart. And I know that everybody listening today is, you know, something just clicked in the head to say, you know what, you can still change the world. You can still make things great for people without sacrificing yourself. Thank you so, so much, Alina, for the inspiration, for your openness, and for sharing your story with us, for teaching us so much today. I think that, wow, just absolutely blown away by what you've been able to achieve, and also I think the person that you are. You can perhaps maybe just leave us with one piece of advice or one thing that you can just share in closing that you would teach or say to the 16-year-old you, perhaps here in South Africa or around the world. This content will be posted on our YouTube channel. We're actually streaming live right now. And to any young girl out there who's listening and watching you and thinking what you've just described, to say, oh, this is so unattainable. She's so amazing. She's so accomplished. What's that one thing that you would leave with them to enable them to achieve their dreams?
Very simple, 3 words. It's believe in yourself. Even when your parents, teachers, peers, friends, nobody else believes in you. Everybody else is kind of shutting down or coming down on your dream, even if academically you are not gifted, you are a slow learner. Believe in yourself and your capabilities. I think it was Audrey that said that the word itself, impossible, says I'm possible. And so anything is possible, and you can change a situation that you are in or a situation that other people are in if you believe in yourself hard enough to put together a plan and start to work towards that plan.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you are as inspired as I was today. We're so fortunate that we have been able to partner with the Anzisha Prize to bring you these phenomenal young people. I think that we have been absolutely blown away by the kinds of conversations that we have been able to have with these very young entrepreneurs who are changing their countries, who are changing the continent, and who are changing the world for the better. We truly believe that this is how entrepreneurship can become the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day, and please do remember to subscribe. We're going to be having more conversations next week. We have decided to extend the conversations that we're going to be having with these very young entrepreneurs. So we're going to continue, you know, as the young entrepreneurs present themselves, we're going to be having the conversations. So please do join us next week, Monday. We'll be talking to Caleb. The information is up on your screen. And if you want to register, you can go to www.eTTP.co.za. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys. There is so much content on there. If you've missed any of the previous sessions, please do go and listen. From me, Deboho, I will see you again soon. Have a wonderful afternoon.